Okay, so just one more reference. This little guy, and he'll be nice for the horns on top, I think. This nice kind of rounded, high-lit shape. So we learn a lot by just repeating ourselves in this class. So selecting with the magic wand, adding to the selection with shift, and then refining edge, and then hitting delete multiple times because it's feathered, and it will expand. And then using tools to transform, to warp, push and pull it like dough. And then using a soft-edged, large 100% eraser to kind of ghost it in at the edges. Soften these hardest edges, especially where they overlap other clouds. But not so much that they lose all of their character. So we want it to look like the clouds are rolling on top of each other. What I like about warp is even though it just gives you a simple 9-grid space, if you're pretty careful about how you use that grid without distorting things you don't want to distort, you can control it pretty well. And so sometimes I'll warp it after I've erased so I can see the overlap, the soft-edged overlap that I've created a little bit more clearly. And I definitely like using a stylus here so I can target where I erase. I'm not erasing from this full circle each time. I'm actually erasing from just a tiny bit of the center of it. And now I've got all my layers in. I can move them into different positions, like which cloud is in front, which is behind. And that should make sense with your creature. So that seems to make some sense there. I still have my cookie cutter at the back. I have the body kind of projecting towards us on top. And maybe I want this bottom one over the top of that. Yeah, so that's giving me a lot of material to work with. And then I can go through my layers and kind of, because they might be in a slightly different order now, transition with the eraser a little bit more. Now the eraser is my favorite compositing tool. Because it's not creating my own pixels at all, it's just revealing them kind of strategically. And then I like to have the move tool set on auto select, and anytime I'm using the eraser, I can just hold down command and get to the move tool. It's a nice shortcut. And if I click on a layer, it will automatically select that layer. So what if I want to cut away from my background now? My cookie cutter. I can, and I can start taking away that soft edge or that crisp edge, and by erasing away from it, create more of a soft edge impression. I'm still at 100%. Whenever you still have hard edges around, you want to keep your eraser at 100%. Once all of your hard edges are taken care of, then you can take it down and try lower opacities. But you don't want to leave any lingering hard edges. So they hurt our believable illusion of a cloud. All right, now by erasing from my cloud cutout layer, you might worry, well, how are you going to get your cloud creature's shape if you've just erased it? And that's about, knowing what layer assets you have. And I've still got this guy. So I'm not too worried. I'm just going to move him back behind so that he peeks out. So now it's like my creature is a ninja. He just threw a smoke pellet, right? And I want to expand the clouds to cover him up a little bit. So this is where I'll go to some tools we've used before, but using them in a more targeted way. I'm going to create a new layer over the top. I'm going to label that layer clone stamp. This is the way I like to use clone stamp. It has a lot of advantages, always on its own layer. I'm going to right-click near the eyeball and make it red. Make sure it's above everything. Use the clone stamp tool and make sure it's set for all layers. And then I can use it at a low opacity because all my edges are soft. Very soft edged brush, pressure sensitive to size. And now I can just steal cloud and push it where I want it. So if I want to cover up, this little foot with cloud, I look for an area that's lit in the right way for that. See, maybe something like this. Like that. And I'm just going to softly clone stamp some of it in at that low opacity. And the more I press, the harder I press, the bigger it will get. I can layer up a few different cloud textures and kind of create it. And then that's what it would look like, right? But if I do everything that way, it will look too even. So because it's on its own layer, then I can erase away from it, kind of bite away, let the cloud reveal itself, make it kind of wispy. Now here's the other tool that's very helpful. So I just clone stamp that little foot in there. But what if I want to tug on it with the wind a little bit? This is a brand new tool. It's underneath the gradient tool, which was also new for this assignment. And it's the Smudge Tool. It's at the very bottom of this drawer. So you go underneath Blur and Sharpen to Smudge. Now the Smudge Tool is a similarly powerful tool to dodge, burn, and sponge. So I'm going to keep it at about a strength of 30 or below. And I'm going to keep a large soft brush and I'm just going to pull away at the edges. I'm just going to touch and then let go. Pull away at the edges, touch and then let go. And it's a slow working tool, but you'll see what it does if I go back in history. See? It just pulls at the edges a little bit, and it softens the edges as it pulls. So if you use it the right way, it's a lot like the wind kind of pulling at the edges of your cloud and softening them in interesting ways. Okay, so let's clone stamp some more. Let's do some of this back stuff. Get some shadow in there. And I'm only clone stamping at about 50% opacity. So if I want it to be stronger, I have to hit it multiple times. And that keeps it from looking copy and pasted. All right. Now with those odd shapes, those look fairly believable, but let's use the smudge tool and just tug at them a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to use Command to switch to some other layers and use the smudge tool to shape those clouds at the edges and also soften them as I shape. And if I see there's colors and debris I don't want, I can use my eraser. I can cut it away. Or if I just want more control of the overlap, I can go to a lower opacity eraser. If I want a lot of subtlety, I can do a super low opacity eraser. And just hit it multiple times. Because clouds are about transparency as well. So now we're really getting into subtlety. And that's why I'm starting to zoom in, move between my layers, just using the Command tool with auto select. You can even nudge clouds in different directions. Always being aware of what kind of edges are believable. And use my smudge tool to kind of push them around. You can also smudge back into the cloud. But you don't want to be too heavy-handed. Okay, so you can see how my clone stamp layer has helped. Now I want to worry about the face, because the main thing or the head, the main thing you need for a cloud to look like a creature, not just a cloud, is to have some point of reference for where the head might be. And so a big part is this tusk. So I need to figure out how to delete that. So I'm going to lock this layer so I don't accidentally erase on it. And I'm going to work on the cloud behind. Start by erasing away at a low opacity. Pulling some of that negative space out. That's helpful. Let's see. I also need that here to open up a little sky. Here as well. This I'm not as concerned about because that helps kind of sell the bottom. All right, and then what do I need in terms of an eye? Well, this might be subtle use. What did I just do? Subtle use of dodging and burning. So let's see, where is the eye? It's there. Use Command, make sure I'm selecting that. I'm just working with very low exposure burn tool, just on the midtones. I'm just going to darken it subtly around the eye. I could also, I can be on the clone stamp layer and work it that way too. And just kind of clone stamp a little bit of a focal point where the eye should be. Yeah, that's helpful. And I can go back to my clone stamp my edges, though I try not to clone stamp the blue of the sky too much.